answer their opponents with abuse, if they do not have recourse to arguments of a still more unpleasant nature. "What you say is quite true," observed General Epanchin. Then, clasping his hands behind his back, he returned to his place on the terrace steps, where he yawned with an air of boredom. "Come, sir, that will do, you weary me," said Lizabetha Prokofievna suddenly to Evgenie Pavlovitch. Hippolyte rose all at once, looking troubled and almost frightened. "It is time for me to go," he said, glancing round in perplexity. "I have detained you. I wanted to tell you everything. I thought you all... for the last time. It was a whim." He evidently had sudden fits of returning animation when he awoke from his semi-delirium. Then, recovering full self-possession for a few moments, he would speak, in disconnected phrases which had perhaps haunted him for a long while on his bed of suffering, during weary, sleepless nights. "Well, good-bye," he said abruptly. "You think it is easy for me to say good-bye to you?" Feeling that his question was somewhat gauche, he smiled angrily. Then, as if vexed that he could not ever express what he really meant, he said irritably, in a loud voice: "Excellency, I have the honour of inviting you to my funeral. That is, if you will deign to honour it with your presence. I invite you all, gentlemen, as well as the general." He burst out laughing again, but it was the laughter of a madman. Lizabetha Prokofievna approached him anxiously and seized his arm. He stared at her for a moment, still laughing, but soon his face grew serious. "Do you know that I came here to see those trees?" pointing to the trees in the park. "It is not ridiculous, is it? Say that it is not ridiculous," he demanded urgently of Lizabetha Prokofievna. Then he seemed to be plunged in thought. A moment later he raised his head, and his eyes sought for someone. He was looking for Evgenie Pavlovitch, who was close by on his right as before, but he had forgotten this, and his eyes ranged over the assembled company. "Ah, you have not gone," he said, when he caught sight of him at last. "You kept on laughing just now, because I thought of speaking to the people from the window for a quarter of an hour, but I am not 18, you know. Lying on that bed, and looking out of that window, I have thought all sorts of things for such a long time that a dead man has no age, you know. I was saying that to myself only last week, when I was awake in the night. Do you know what you fear most? You fear our sincerity more than anything, although you despise us. The idea crossed my mind that night. You thought I was making fun of you just now, Lizabetha Prokofievna. No, the idea of mockery was far from me. I only meant to praise you. Colia told me the prince called you a child. Very well, but let me see, I had something else to say." He covered his face with his hands and tried to collect his thoughts. "Ah, yes. You were going away just now, and I thought to myself, I shall never see these people again. Never again. This is the last time I shall see the trees too. I shall see nothing after this but the red brick wall of Meyer's house opposite my window. Tell them about it. Try to tell them, I thought. Here is a beautiful young girl. You are a dead man. Make them understand that. Tell them that a dead man may say anything.
And Mrs. Grundy will not be angry. You are not laughing." He looked anxiously around. "But you know I get so many queer ideas, lying there in bed. I have just grown convinced that nature is full of mockery. You called me an atheist just now, but you know this nature. Why are you laughing again? You are very cruel," he added suddenly, regarding them all with mournful reproach. "I have not corrupted Colia," he concluded, in a different and very serious tone, as if remembering something again. "Nobody here is laughing at you. Calm yourself," said Lizabetha Prokofievna, much moved. "You shall see a new doctor tomorrow. The other was mistaken. But sit down, do not stand like that. You are delirious." "Oh, what shall we do with him?" she cried in anguish as she made him sit down again in the armchair. A tear glistened on her cheek. At the sight of it, Hippolyte seemed amazed. He lifted his hand timidly and touched the tear with his finger, smiling like a child. You, he began joyfully. "You cannot tell how he always spoke so enthusiastically of you, Colia here. I liked his enthusiasm. I was not corrupting him. But I must leave him too. I wanted to leave them all. There was not one of them, not one. I wanted to be a man of action. I had a right to be. Oh, what a lot of things I wanted! Now I want nothing. I renounce all my wants. I swore to myself that I would want nothing. Let them seek the truth without me. Yes, nature is full of mockery. Why," he continued with sudden warmth, "does she create the choicest beings only to mock at them? The only human being who is recognized as perfect, when nature showed him to mankind, was given the mission to say things which have caused the shedding of so much blood that it would have drowned mankind if it had all been shed at once. Oh, it is better for me to die. I should tell some dreadful lie too. Nature would so contrive it. I have corrupted nobody. I wanted to live for the happiness of all men, to find and spread the truth. I used to look out of my window at the wall of Meyer's house and say to myself that if I could speak for a quarter of an hour, I would convince the whole world. And now for once in my life I have come into contact with you, if not with the others, and what is the result? Nothing. The sole result is that you despise me. Therefore I must be a fool. I am useless. It is time I disappeared. And I shall leave not even a memory, not a sound, not a trace, not a single deed. I have not spread a single truth. Do not laugh at the fool. Forget him forever, I beseech you. Do not be so cruel as to remember. Do you know that if I were not consumptive, I would kill myself?" Though he seemed to wish to say much more, he became silent. He fell back into his chair, and covering his face with his hands, began to sob like a little child. "Oh, what on earth are we to do with him?" cried Lizabetha Prokofievna. She hastened to him and pressed his head against her bosom, while he sobbed convulsively. "Come, come, come! There, you must not cry, that will do. You are a good child. God will forgive you, because you knew no better. Come now, be a man. You know presently you will be ashamed." Hippolyte raised his head with an effort, saying: "I have little brothers and sisters. over there, poor and innocent.